Welcome to Not Strong.
This is a podcast for men about real challenges and real growth.
Life can hit hard. What do you do when the things you've always relied upon quit working?
When the way you've always handled things just isn't enough.
When your physical, mental, and spiritual strength are put to the test?
Do you push through, hold on even tighter?
Or have you learned how to surrender? And what does that look like?
We're here to explore the human spirit with you and share what it takes to press forward through life's greatest challenges.
To tap into something bigger than ourselves and live a healthier, happier, more fulfilling life.
Join us on the Not Strong journey.
Welcome to Not Strong. My name is Kurtis Loftus.
And I'm Tim Hamby.
So, Not Strong, empowering the human spirit. This is our 5th episode.
Yeah, we're up to 14 followers.
14.
Yeah. 100% increase.
Well, so thank you for joining us, and we've got a lot to cover today with this particular podcast. What we intentionally are dealing with the human spirit because I think both of us understand that's the part of our lives, living out a life that has the greatest potential for strength. But we don't know where to go to get strength for that spiritual strength, correct?
Yeah.
So this
mental,
is
physical, spiritual well-being.
Yeah, it's I called it before show the mystery, and I know mystery scares people sometimes. Not having tangibles, not really fully having control is a problem, especially for men.
Not being able to understand every part of it.
Yes. So that's why we're being intentional with this podcast. And so not for anyone that has not heard this yet, it's kind of an acronym. It's a play on...
it is an acronym.
Yes, it is.
Tell them what it stands for.
I sure will. So Kurtis, no testosterone is the actual, the premise.
Kurtis, no testosterone.
No testosterone, yes. And so I was diagnosed with prostate cancer September last year. And long story short, it as a endurance athlete, as someone that really gets after it and has done that my whole life, surf marathons, marathon running, stand up paddling around the island, 76 miles. I mean, it's just my identity was built around endurance and getting after things on a daily basis. Crazy or not, that's been my life.
Yeah, it's fine.
So
that's cool stuff.
When the prostate cancer diagnosis happened, and then I did the treatment, and then I realized, there's medicine that they're going to inject into me that removes testosterone because that's what the particular cancer loves. That's what it feeds off of. It feeds off of it. They say, we want that out of you. You can't have this now because your best chances, for recovery or remission, whatever, is just to have that absent from the body. So I'm almost zero testosterone.
How do they even take it out?
I don't know how the drugs work, brother. But
it's by drugs. Okay.
It is a drug. Yep. And so that's been since September, 6 months now into this thing. And I can tell you, it's a different world. But going into it and thinking about myself without testosterone had me kind of laughing. I wasn't that fearful. We can go back and forth about why weren't you afraid of that? Yeah. But for me, I've been through enough in my lifetime that here goes one more challenge.
Things don't scare you.
I'm going to treat it like it's just one more thing I got to deal with.
Yeah.
Which is really, again, the whole heart and spirit of Not Strong. I know that my physical condition is going to change. Just know it. What's going to happen with me emotionally? If I'm smart and do the right things, well, that's put me in the best position, right, to address the cancer. But then there's this whole spiritual side of me, the essence of Kurtis.
It's important.
Yeah, let's just call it, people know you for your smile, or they know you for your energy. They know you for your enthusiasm, or your, the way you go about how you carry yourself. And it's kind of that intangible thing that they see in your eyes, right? And is that still there? So the mystery piece, which is what makes us, I think, human. Yeah, especially human.
Yeah,
our spirits.
Yeah, for sure.
I want that to be lifted up as well. So when you and I talked months and months ago about the podcast, you also were getting ready to go through. You had already been through stuff, and we're going to talk a little bit probably most of this podcast about you and cancer. No, just I said I got to talk to Tim and see if he wants to together chat out loud about this, because men need to hear some of this stuff.
Yeah, no, definitely. When I saw that you were going through this and knowing your background and your energy, your spirit, I was the same way. I said, man, I got to talk to Kurtis, and because I know that we're like-minded in a lot of ways, and probably navigating this journey in a lot of similar ways. And it was funny too, because I wanted to share what I was going through, and I wasn't sure how to do that. I also, kind of wanted to keep it off of social and not let it become the focal point of my life.
You don't want it to be your identity, if it's not your full identity.
Yeah, I didn't want it to become my identity, cancer patient.
Yeah.
And so I actually kept it on the download, and my thought was, I'm going to go through this, I'm going to beat it, and then I'll share the story. And so when you contacted me, it was really, it's kind of like an answer to prayer. And it was, which has happened a lot of times.
It does, doesn't it? Yeah.
And where you're thinking, I'm praying for this to happen. And then I get a phone call or text and asking me about this, and we're the same way. We know nothing about podcasts, nothing about how to set them up, do them, or
it was in and of itself a whole new journey.
That's right.
Because you're like,
let's do it. Maybe it'll help somebody.
Well, that and I also was. I'm always nervous about trying to set something up, especially when I know it involves a lot of other people or even just one other person that's going to be important in the journey. And so when I had the Not Strong, it was like, well, I don't want it just to be about me. Obviously, I like the not concept, which is, your spiritual, your emotional, physical condition, and how we strengthen that as men.
The triune.
It's
reflected in the logo.
Yeah, that whole idea of it's not a life for me. I've learned through 63 years in this journey, it's not if you lived in a dualistic way, right, wrong, black, white, can't do this, can't do that. There's something that's still not complete in the journey. It's more and more over time. It's been about that sort of the mystery of the journey that becomes really special. And we're calling this Fear Not, this podcast, because some people just don't dig the mystery. But when you're thrust into it and it's time to, continue and in fact maybe grow in that mystery, then wow, you're doing something important because there's other people that may, learn from it, respond positively to it, whatever. But, for you and I to do this, we've said it out loud before, kind of different to just go, hey, let's jump out there and talk about things that, most people don't like to talk about or men don't understand, but we're doing it.
Yeah.
It's important. Yeah. So, how's your week real quick? Okay.
It was good. Just getting back into the swing of things after being gone out west for a week on vacation, and so jumping right back into work. And
you're a busy man, though. You stay busy with your job. Right?
I stay real busy with my job with Beeson 4 as creative director. My job is twofold. It's creative and it's lately since I came back to work after cancer in December. It's project management.
That's what it is.
They put that, but what's happened now is when I came back, that's where they needed assistance, and so I jumped into that role. It was good. I kept learning. I'm a lifelong learner.
We all are.
Doing different things that I hadn't done in many years or sometimes ever with the project management side, and so I learned a lot. And now they've hired someone new to take that part away and send me back to creative full time, which is my first love. But now I feel like, hey, I'm more versatile than ever. It's been good. And just shout out, to the people at Beeson 4. They were so good to me all through last year through the cancer
Sure.
in terms of, hey, you ramp down to whatever hours you can handle, but they kept me employed, kept income coming in. And
that means so much.
they just went with me on that trip and adjusted how they needed to. I was only working 15 hours a week max, maybe 10.
Wow.
Well,
that's
so
huge.
anyway, and then you come back when you're ready.
Yeah. Well, so I'm interested in when this began for you, when, kind of for your diagnosis. I know that I heard a little bit in one of our podcasts about some of the symptoms. So you can kind of hit on the symptoms again. You also, one of the earlier podcasts, shared some of your own trepidation just going and getting, going to the doctor, doing that work. So we'll kind of move through that, but I'm also interested in, who you became during that time. How did that change you during that time? So take
So and hopefully there's some practical things that come out of this. It's been a real interesting journey, but it started out, and this was kind of the symptom list. Started out with headaches. The headaches were related to high blood pressure. The high blood pressure was because my kidneys were working really hard, and the kidneys were working hard because there was blockage in my abdomen from the colon cancer that had spread, was metastatic at this point, had spread to my abs. The lining behind my abdomen that holds my intestinal wall in.
Yeah.
And
so I'm going to do a little, I hate to do this, but were you at all finding symptoms ahead of this? I mean, was physiologically, I sometimes wonder, gosh, I don't feel right, or my body is a little different, or
the only thing that I wondered about, and I attributed it to old age.
Oh, isn't that interesting?
My mile times were going up. My breathing was getting more difficult.
And you were slowing down with your miles.
Yeah,
you weren't fast.
I wasn't as fast as I used to be running, and so. But I just attributed I'm getting older, and you can't just not just mind over matter over everything.
Yeah, right.
But what really set it off was those headaches, because I was never sick ever, and I never ever, when I would get sick, it'd be in my lungs or something.
Yeah. How long did they last for? Before you?
That was like they went on for probably, I don't know, month and a half of having. I was going, do I have a headache? I feel like I got a headache tonight. And it just kept getting worse. And finally, I went up in August of 23 to visit some buddies in the mountains. And when I was up there, every night I'd go to bed with this strong headache. And I was going, what is going on? So I finally went to the doctor. I used to avoid the doctor because I felt like, they're going to try and find something wrong with you. And but I went in there for that. And the day that I went, my doctor wasn't there. Another doctor was there, but he took my blood pressure, and it was 225.
No, that's way high.
I mean, imminent heart attack area. And he said the doctor was just shocked, and he's like, you need to go to the emergency room. And I was on my way to a business visit, in Ponte Vedra, and I said, I can't. I got a meeting right after this. And he said, no. He said, you need to go to the emergency. And I said, no, I can't. I won't. And he said, he said, Tim, your blood pressure at a really dangerous rate. And he goes, here's what we're going to do. He goes, I'm going to put in a prescription right now at Walgreens for the same drug that they would give you in the emergency room. He goes, and I want you, after this meeting that you go to, come right back here, and you're going to take it, and you're going to be on heart medication for the rest of your life. This is crazy. And so I went ahead and agreed to do it. And I went to my meeting, and I came back, and he gave me that drug. They sat there and monitored it for, 15, 20 minutes. I finally got it down to some, decent threshold, which was still very high.
Yeah.
And he said, so, okay, he goes, you got an issue. And so that set off a big,
So
long...
they thought it was maybe even still heart related or something from a circulatory blood, not related at all to what's going on in the colon.
Yeah.
Right.
But so they sent me on, a battery of tests, find out where, is there a blockage, is there a circulation problem, what is it? And this went on for months, and they sent me to a cardiologist, and I did all the tests, and they had me running on a treadmill and doing dye through my veins and different things. And then to me, it was all kind of weird because I was thinking, my heart's fine. I run. I'm fit. I'm active. I don't. I eat okay, pretty good. And
you eat a lot better now, don't you?
Yeah, a lot better now. And so anyway, after a period of months, and they gave me this medication. I was taking losartan, and I forget the other one. The emergency one was clonidine or something. And but they tried me on a couple. Carvedilol and lodipine. Those were two more, looking for the right combination that would bring it down. And I finally went in to this cardiologist one day and got back test results. He said, "Tim, great news." And I said, what is it? I thought they had figured out what it was. And he goes, it's not your heart. He said, there's no blockage. You don't have to have surgery. And I was like, well, thank goodness. I haven't had surgery. But what's going on with me, and why can't the medication control it? And he thought that it was just a matter of getting that medication right. And I had in the blood test a weird kidney score. And I said, what about these kidney scores?
Right.
And he said, well, a lot of times when your heart's working harder, it can affect the kidneys. Yeah. And another doctor had said, when you were having headaches, you were taking aspirin, right? He said that can affect your kidney scores. Yeah. And I said, but can the kidneys affect the heart? And they said, well, yeah, that's probably unlikely, But so this had gone on for months, and I felt like we still haven't gotten to the bottom of what's going on here. So
Tim, I'm going to just jump in for a second. What you're doing right there, as far as asking doctor questions back, dudes, first of all, don't do that naturally. I used to not do that. When I went to a doctor, I'm like, get me out of here as fast as possible. Hopefully they check. I'm good. Run. Get out of there. Yeah. And, you get a little older, wiser. You begin to understand that these guys see hundreds of patients daily, or they have certainly.
And they're humans.
And you're like, your best chances when you go to a doctor in terms of health and well-being are to engage if you have the time, and you should make the time, right? Mm-hmm. So I don't know why it took me an entire life to realize, oh, you mean the guy sitting across from me, who I think is just like, they've obviously gone through school, they're smart people, they care. It's not like they don't care, but they're just like anyone else, busy people, and you got to slow them down and ask questions.
Nobody knows you better than you.
Thank you. I had to get that in there because I fully agree, but you need to take control. You need to take authority on your health and well-being. You need to own 100%. It. And if you're going to see a doctor and you know things or sense some things, you slow everything down and you go, hey, doc, what about this? Or I looked at this, and just want a couple questions asked.
And thankfully, I had Gretchen on this in my life on this journey. Yeah. And she was pointing it up as well. Not at this time. She got involved later, but she's that way too. Boy, she'll ask questions. She'll pin people down, and if get an answer, but trust your body. Yeah. Trust the signals that you're feeling, and
we're not talking about go out and do your own research and solve your own medical problems, but it is important that if you can go in with questions that are reasonable. And
I sensed that it wasn't going to be my heart from the get-go.
Yeah, right.
And I thought that all the tests I was going through weren't going to show anything, and they didn't. Yeah. But so that lasted a while, and I was getting really stressed out. And a big thing happened to me at that point, and this taps into kind of to the spiritual side of things, and it really set the tone for my recovery. And it was really something that had not happened to me before in my life, but one day, and I'm not like a high stress guy, laid back, kind of low key, but I was stressing on why can't the doctors figure out what's going on with me, and why can't this medication that they're giving me control my blood pressure, because it still was high all the time. I kept going back to the doctor because it was running so high, and so I went out one day to go for a jog or a run, which frees my mind and relaxes me and stuff. I went right here just for a walk in the neighborhood. I was going to go down the sidewalk, took my music with me, my iPod. I'm usually listening to alternative, reggae, classic rock, whatever. But I put on my worship playlist, and I started praying to myself. And I'd pray, sometimes, but not like this. This was focused prayer. And my prayer was, God, will you please let my doctors find out what's going on with me? What's wrong with me? And I sensed that it was something bigger that was wrong with me. And I wanted to find out what it was related to. And so I'm going and I'm listening to worship music, and I've got my iPods in, and I'm walking down the sidewalk, and they were relaxing me, and I was praying this prayer, and walking on the sidewalk, and there's this guy running, looks like a teenager, maybe 16, 17 years old, probably somebody from cross country team at Ponte Vedra, and he's sweating up a storm, and he also looks like he might be crying. And I can't tell if it's the sweat getting into his eyes that are, turning them red or whatever, but just kind of a lot of water on his face. And he's coming, and as he gets near me, he slows down, and he's got the earbuds in, and he takes off his earbuds, and he just comes to a halt right there in front of me as I'm walking. So I take out my earbuds, and he says, Sir, can I give you a message? And I said, yeah. It was weird because, like, what message are you gonna give me? And he said, Jesus loves you.
Yeah, that's sweet.
And my mouth dropped open, and I didn't know what to say to that. And these thoughts going rushing through my head. It's like, okay, are your friends in the bushes, or somebody about to jump out? Are you recording me for video? So I just said the first thing that came to my mind. I was just like, yeah, I know that he does. And then he just kind of looked at me like, okay, I just wanted to make sure you knew. And he puts his headphones back in, and he starts to jog off. And I was like, hey, and because I was really grateful that he'd given me this message, and he stopped, and he pulled his earbud out and turned around and looked. And I said, he loves you too. And he nodded at me, and he put his headphones back in. Went on running. I came back, and Gretchen was here, and I said, you won't believe what just happened. I'm past this guy. I'm sitting there praying for an answer. What's going on with me? And this 16-year-old kid stops and ministers to me, and tells me, can I give you a message? And and she goes, yeah, I saw him running, and I said, he looked like he was like crying or whatever. I said it was weird, and she goes, yeah, I saw him, and she said, you think that was, God speaking to you? I said, it definitely was God speaking to you. I've never had anything so direct like that. I've had prayers answered.
Well, Tim, let me throw this in then, because my belief is that God is in everything, right? It's in there. He's, in these conversations right now. He's in the fear that we would have even before we have an answer. He's there.
Yeah.
He's in the small little whispers that we want to ignore, right? He's in the big yelling and screaming and pushing back that we feel like is so obvious that he has to be there.
Yeah.
You know, I've one of the things that has kind of resulted again about my own 10-year recovery process has been, and that's just from drinking and trying to self-medicate, you know, for years and realizing that's not going to solve a problem. Mm-hmm. You know, that's only going to make things worse.
Yeah.
But I don't get so worked up. I don't get so overreactive.
Yeah.
I don't, you know, find myself stressing and fear. Because you and I both know stress brings us problems, you know, just physiologically, the whole thing. You and I, if we haven't learned anything from this most current journey, is the doctors will tell us, the books will tell us, folks that are, you know, spiritually oriented will tell us, your body needs to be in a place of acceptance. Yeah. Like, okay, I can't do anything about this.
You need to learn how to give it to God.
Yeah. And so when someone reminds you even of that singular idea of, because I like to think of God as love. Mm-hmm. That's the easiest way I explain God to people. Mm-hmm. You know, it's probably bigger than that even. Mm-hmm. I don't ever want to imagine I can explain God.
Yeah.
But it's like one of the ways I do it is just say, I believe God's love. Mm-hmm. And in that regard, there's all the things that, like we've talked about with love, because we've had a little podcast on love, you know, that, you know, the patience, the sort of willingness, the things that come with love. If that's God, and God is asking us to be accepting, you know, hey, this life journey, you know, in our program, that recovery program, we call it a trudge.
Call it what?
Trudging. Trudge. It's a trudge towards a trudge of happy destiny. Yeah. So we know it's the better way of journeying this life is not
100%.
You know,
100%.
It's like just, and so that's a beautiful thing when you're in that space, headspace, whatever, of gosh, I need an answer, and someone just basically reminds us.
Yeah.
You know,
God loves you.
Yeah, that's right. And that's everywhere. You know, funny enough, sometimes it's in the exact opposite response that might happen too. Weirdly enough, you know, God can also, or someone can interject something into your day, and it's like, I didn't expect to hear that, and it gets you all kind of in a totally opposite frame of mind. Right?
Yeah.
And you got to get out of that, because you know that bad frame of mind's not helping anything either.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
So you're just like constantly looking for the God jabs or pokes or whatever you want to call them. If you're willing. There's people that will call it other things. You know, you can call the universe and how it works with you or against you. You can call it whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
But we tend to find ourselves with our egos so darn important. You know, it's like, hey, I got to have these things working. And if they don't work these certain ways, I'm going to be, you know, just a mess. I will not be able to relax or, you know, find.
There's a lot of things in the world that can distract you and pull you away, you know, from, you know, focusing on God or giving yourself to God, and or not fully trusting God. And, you know, and I think that's just our natural human response. You got to
designed that way.
Keep working your way back, and I think also, you know, I mean, this did set the tone for my journey and not being afraid as I went into it, knowing what the outcome was going to be. And I think a big part of it is understanding that God has already done this healing, atoning work for us. You know, Jesus Christ on the cross, he's already overcome sin, sickness, disease. He's done the work. The work is done. And I think that you just need to receive it in faith. And it can't be hope. It's got to be faith. It's got to be knowing that this work is done. It's done for you. He loves you. And you're going to be okay. Just like the message.
But the faith brings the hope.
That's right. Exactly. It's a subtle thing, but that's where hope. We have hope, because we have faith,
right?
And we have faith because Jesus did this for us,
and
so it set the tone for the rest of what was going to happen. And not very long after that, I switched cardiologists and went to a new one, and he said, "Okay, let's get your kidneys checked out." And then that set off. He called me on a Sunday night at home, and he told me, he said, "Hey, hey Tim, this is Dr. Sotolongo." He said, "I want you. You need to go to the emergency room." He said, I was in the hospital today. I saw your scores and the kidney results from the test." And he said, "And you're near stage 4 kidney failure." I said, 3.9. And he said, and I said, "Really?" I said, "Do I?" Because I felt fine still.
Right.
And he said, "Yeah." And I said, "Can I wait till like Monday?" And he said, "No, you should go tonight." And he said, "Once you're there, they'll run the whole battery of tests on you, and they'll figure out what this is. Nothing to do with your heart. It's going to be something else." And so I went ahead and went, and then I was in the hospital for the next 2 weeks.
What was the time frame again? What month?
Now I think I started in August of 23. Now we're in probably
makes sense
February of 24.
So now you're into 24.
And I felt like I had wasted
6 months or something.
Yeah, about half a year just trying to figure out what was going on with me.
Yep.
And which was valuable time, I guess. And because when I went in the hospital and they said, and they began the discovery process, and they said, you're lucky you're here. And I said, "I feel fine." And they're like, "You wouldn't." And I said, I said, like, "How long? What are you talking about?" And they said, within a couple of days, you'd be feeling it. And
wow.
And so I was like, and then they were referring to the kidney failure at that point.
Yeah.
And so
the kidneys are overworking themselves, right?
Yeah.
Is that what's happening?
What's that?
Are the kidneys overworking themselves?
Yeah. That's exactly what they're doing. Basically, what was happening with me, I had this blockage.
Yeah, that's what you said. Yep.
Urine when I would go to the restroom, not all of it would escape because of the blockage.
Sure.
And it would back up into the kidneys. And and then that makes them work harder. They were functioning well. Stuff could go through them and be cleansed, but then the waste wasn't getting out. But the way that they figured, when I got in the hospital, they did all these tests. They put stuff down me, they put stuff up me, scopes and whatnot, and they found this cancer. They originally, and it's called signet cell cancer, signet ring cancer, and it's rare, it's aggressive, and
not hereditary.
Not hereditary, right. No. And they said it came from an external source. And they originally thought that it was that the cancer had started in my ab and moved to my colon. And then they finally, through testing and everything, determined, no, okay, this is a colorectal cancer, and it spread to your abdomen. And so that's where I was, and those tests were, and now I was starting to feel it, and I was getting really run down as they were doing these tests. I was getting poked every 4 hours, and I ended up last year spending 41 days in the hospital, 41 days, and it was a lot right at the beginning, and when I was in there, I got infections from the hospital, from the tests, which is, I think, unfortunately, a common thing, like sepsis and
So we're probably already going to preface again. If it's a preface, when you're in the middle of something, it's not a preface, is it? We're going to interrupt. But this is the things that make people, men especially, go, I ain't doing that.
Yeah, exactly.
Everything we're trying to do right now is encourage. And so as we get into the truth of process, because you're in it, you're in the middle of the belly of the beast. There it is. You are going through this and knowing it's painful and it's, oh my gosh, 41 days is, I mean, I don't even want to, imagine a hospital for 41 days, but they're working on what is going to be your life. And so, I tell people all the time when it comes to medicine, because I've seen some crazy things God can do without, just the body's amazing, right?
Yeah, right? For sure.
But medicine, those guys are getting after you and doing their very, very best. So patience is probably the thing you're trying to find, right? In the middle of all that. How did you find patience in that? What was it? I guess my ask is, did you come up with anything to help you have patience?
Well, when they actually diagnosed me and told me what's going on after a week or two, they came in my room, and it was the oncologist. And I knew what they were going to say. I was kind of waiting on it, and they said, you have stage 4 cancer. It's a rare and aggressive form of cancer, and Gretchen was there with me, and because of what had happened with the runner on the path, and getting this message, I already was like, I'm letting that go, kind of in one ear and out the other, and I'm just thinking, Tim, you're going to be okay. You're going to get through this. You're going to have to do stuff, all the stuff now. You have to do the chemo and whatever else. And so they told me that, and I said, well, what's the prognosis? And, she said, well, without treatment, 6 months. With treatment, 5 years. She said, but it's not curable. It's metastatic. It's already spread. You're at stage 4, and and that's how long you have, basically. And so again, I wasn't afraid. I being a Christian, I have that hope. I know where I'm going, and and I'm thinking all these things. I'm thinking, you already lived a full life, wonderful life, 30 years married, kids, and business, and I'm thinking, you're already kind of in the cherry on top phase of life, but I want to be here. I love life. I love life.
And where you're probably going is where I think most people would go, and that is, 2 options here, right? I can go ahead and have my pity parties and dwell on this and become an angry, anxious, let's say recluse, where I just disappear.
Surrender. Well,
surrender is, I'm going to go to the big surrender, which is, or I can be all of whatever God has for me. And that surrender, because this is the thing.
Different kind of surrender.
Very different kind of surrenders. And isn't it interesting that we are allowed to talk out loud about this? Because again, it gets all the way back to, you have this God, and trust and faith, hope. I don't have this. I don't own this. I'm not the all, mighty, and this is just like anything else that life brings.
Yeah.
Good, bad, perfect, not perfect. All the things that we just started the show with, where not strong is built around, you can be dualistic in your approach. Duality, and look at what a situation brings you and say, man, there's only 2 ways. Or you say, no, that mystery, the love, the thing that is unknown, what can come of. Kurtis and Tim talking, weekly about strength, hope, spirit, the spiritual wellness, bringing that to other people. What is going on right now, today, is, for me at least, bigger than what I might have done ahead of the cancer.
Mm-hmm.
I might never have even imagined conversations like this and spreading a word like this.
Yeah,
You know?
no, and I
It's
think that
powerful.
I think there's a reason,
Yeah.
that these things happen,
Mm-hmm.
and I think there's a reason that I went through cancer, and
There's a reason you can speak well about things. There's a reason that you can show up with stories. There's a reason that you have, again, the blessing of marriage and children and experiences that bring you to the knowledge you hold is so valuable. It should be shared, and encouragement, regardless of whatever the daily battle is.
it's another thing that people, I think people go through suffering and pain in life a lot of
Children
times.
go through suffering and pain.
So they so that God can work through you.
Yeah.
He's working through you to use you. A lot of people dealing with serious health issues. Cancer is so prevalent, and the rates are rising, which is one of the reasons wanted to do this thing. Colorectal people, cancer, breast cancer, liver cancer, they're all on the rise, especially in younger people.
Tim, when I was diagnosed, and I'm going to have to go through some of our stories to make sure I'm not repeating myself. And you can stop me if this is a repeat, and I'll go through it fast. When I was diagnosed last year, September, I was also getting ready to start a project for what I call Sketch in Time. And that is me as an artist out there in the social world saying to friends, people that are interested in a rendering of some life moment, life event, where it can be, what I do is essentially ask them for photographs. I get these photographs submitted to me, and it might be a wedding, it might be an athletic achievement, it may be someone that's celebrated a birthday, but hey, we want to do a rendering from that day. And they send me all the pictures, or from this person's life, which I've done some life, sketching times. So anyways, I'm diagnosed. It's just started.
And when was that?
This is September last year.
Okay.
Yeah. So I'm starting my treatments, like literally just.
We were like right on the same time frame. Almost.
Yeah. And I'm in now a daily regimen of radiation and in my head, I'm like, oh, this is going to be tough. For 9 weeks, I'm going to get hit by radiation every morning. And I'm just beginning that. And this is a Sunday, and I'm at church, right, with my family. My kids had invited me over to the Mandarin area. I've got this project that's sketching time for this young lady that says, hey, a friend of mine just lost her son. And I'm like, oh, and it was leukemia, 11-year-old boy. So I asked her to send me the photos. And that Sunday morning, I'm at church just after beginning my own radiation treatments, for cancer. And I'm sitting there, and I have the phone off, but it's vibrating, ding, ding, ding. And I'm just looking down, and the pictures of the little boy are coming through onto my phone while I sit there in church. And of course, I'm thinking about my own experiences, my own longevity and what's in front of me and how this thing's all going to work. And that's all about me. Right. And, and I'm just looking down, and by about a dozen photos in of this little boy that's 11 years old and passed from leukemia, and this celebration of his life. That's basically a rendering that I'm going to create for this person. And I'm just like, oh my gosh, God's reminding me how big this world is and how broad the pain might be or the suffering might be.
Yeah. Nobody escapes it.
But also at the same time, the love, the joy, the experiences that little boy, the life he brought that family. I'm just immediately absorbed in that. As I'm looking at these photos, and I'm just like so out of my own head by then. I really am. And it was just like, my gosh. And I was grateful.
Sure.
And so eventually what ends up happening for us, I think, is gratitude really comes rushing in. Like, boom, in a big way, because that's where you belong.
Gratitude is so powerful.
Just in the basic elements of love life experience of just, lean into the things that require some courage.
Yeah,
Because
and these days, it's also it's important for younger men and
but there's
and
just
women
more out there, like you said. There's
because the rates are increasing. They're increasing for people under 50, and they used to say go get checked out every 10 years. Now it's every 5 years, so when you're younger, that kind of I'm invincible feeling is at the ceiling, and you really don't think, well, those are just older people that got to worry about that. It's not. It's now they're connecting cancer with
Sure.
alcohol and different
sugar's
things.
the big one. I think sugar. You and I both know sugar is a huge thing. It's in everything. Processed foods, in general, things that are made in a lab probably aren't good for you.
Because I did do one thing that's kind of a controversial thing out there, and I did it, and I want people to know. They put me on capecitabine, and so it's a drug that I use for, again, every 3 weeks they would give me an infusion. And then during that time period, I'd also be taking oral capecitabine pills morning and night for 2 weeks on and then 1 week off. And then there'd be another infusion, the oral, 2 weeks on, 1 week off. Well, the other thing going into it, people around me had mentioned it. Ivermectin.
I've heard that one.
Was something that supports cancer therapy and has really good results. And people send me videos and different things to watch, and I looked at them and I wanted to be doing everything that I could do to fight this cancer. And that was my mindset going in. That's what I told the oncologist. I said, look, I'll do everything I can do. I'll do what you want me to do, and I'm going to be fine. I took that ivermectin for between 4 and 6 months. I'm not sure the exact time, but between 4 and 6 months, pretty much right from the onset until the cancer finally was under control. And the oncologist, who's very good, she's with MD Anderson, she didn't like me taking it. I mentioned it.
Yeah, right.
She said that she wasn't
a fan. It's okay, whatever.
They didn't have proven results.
Right.
But I did it anyway, stubborn as I am.
Yep.
And so I took it for a long while, and I had a high score on a liver test that they had taken, and so because of that high score on the liver test, I decided that, okay, I'm going to cut down the medications, and I'll go ahead and cut out ivermectin at this point. And I told her, I said, I'm going to do this. And I said, but if things start going south now because I'm starting to feel better. I'd gotten all the way down to 142 pounds from 165 when I started, and I'm at 170 now. But I decided to stop at that point. But I had taken it during the full window of time, and I guess it'll never be clear. Sure. Did it help, or was it the other drug? But I took them both, and that particular drug, the capecitabine, it thinned out my hair a little bit, but I kept it, didn't lose it. Mm-hmm. I never got nauseous one time. They gave me nausea medication. Mm-hmm. The only time I was ever nauseous was when I was taking super powerful antibiotics from an infection. The things that really made me feel bad, miserable, were the weight loss, and when you're not eating. Yeah. And so as soon as they put me on those appetite stimulants, and I started having a big appetite for breakfast, I used to only drink coffee, and that made me feel 100% better. And as I got that weight gain back, that made me feel better. So those are things that I would recommend to someone. And then the other big thing that I was battling all through this whole time was because my kidneys were blocked. They had to put these nephrostomy tubes in my back. So urine could come out, and so I had these 2 bags. They tried to put a stent in one, had an operation, put a stent in one kidney, and had the nephrostomy tube on the other. The stent did fine, but the nephrostomy tube actually worked better. So they said, well, we're going to take the stent out, and we're going to give you 2 nephrostomy tubes. And so that was very difficult, and especially because I couldn't get in the
How
water.
many months?
That was 6.5 months. So anyway, I that was kind of what my year looked like. And after about 7 months, I started feeling better and getting better. And another big thing, and kind of another spiritual thing that happened with me that I want to share is, this is interesting. I think you would find this so interesting, and I haven't really told that many people about it. Only a couple of people know. But early on in March, there was a guy that I'm friends with, stand-up paddleboarder, lives down in Crescent Beach. Nice guy, real nice guy, strong Christian, big dude, big burly dude. And we're friends on social media and stuff. And he contacted me one day. He said, "Hey, Tim," he said, "I want to ask you if you'd be interested in doing this. I got a prayer group that I occasionally get online with, and these are some gentlemen from South Florida, and it's a group of about 25, 30 black men, African Americans, and he said, and it's a prayer group, and he said, and their prayers are so strong." He goes, I know it sounds a little strange, I'm sure you have a lot of people praying for you, but these men in particular, they're prayer warriors. And he said, and I want you to meet them, and I want them to pray for you. And so I was like, yeah, sure, happy to. So I jumped online with them. And on a Saturday morning, they meet every Saturday morning at the 8 a.m. And it's kind of like a little worship service. They have 20 minutes of music, just like you would, in church. And then they start praying, and they pray for each other. They pray for friends. These men it's the mix of ages is kind of wide. Most of them are older than me, I would say. It probably ranges from 40 to 70 plus. Mm-hmm. Some of them are former ministers. There's musicians, there's ex-athletes, there's people who have, going through different issues. And so he got on there. Jeffrey Brown is my friend's name. And he introduced me to Henry Salter's Prayer Warriors. And if you've ever seen on Netflix the movie The Forge, which is about a group of Christian men, black men, who mentor younger men, that's kind of what this group is. And they pray for people, any prayers. And so on that broadcast, on that cast, they prayed for me in a really strong way. And there was people on there also who had been through colon cancer like me, and said the same thing, that they had overcome it when they were told that you got this much time, and they're here many years after that time. So I was encouraged to hear that. But it was an interesting thing culturally for me, because there were 4 other Caucasian men. I was probably one of the younger guys in the group, but I still go to it today. I do church on Saturday mornings online with these men. So I used to every day. Another thing that I did, I got into prayer and meditation every morning. I was praying at least once a day, if not twice a day. got the whole church praying for me. I had so many people. I had so much prayer power. And that's another thing I want people to know, that the power of prayer is real. I mean, I felt it all through my treatment, coming from 100 different directions. People were continually texting me, messages coming from Gretchen and all these people praying for me. And I started, because I wasn't putting it on social media, because I didn't want it to become a big thing, I did start putting it on, what is the website? It's a .org. I'll have to get the name of it. But I started putting the details of people who wanted to know what's going on with you this week. How did this test go? How did that test go? When are you getting out of the hospital? And I started recording everything there. So I've got it all, my journey documented. And I said, I'm just going to be in this middle space of, you're going to recover. You're going to be fine. The tests don't matter. What you're taking doesn't matter. That's why I didn't care about testing ivermectin, and I didn't care about quitting it, because I felt I had already been assured by God I was going to be okay, and the medications didn't matter. And I'm sure they played a role, and I'm sure God worked through all the doctors and all those people. But that's the way that I chose to handle it. So I'm not going to pay attention to that part. I'm going to meditate. I'm going to pray. I'm going to walk every day. I'm going to continue to try and do the things physically that I can do to get better. And I'm going to keep my head in a great space. And, for whatever reason, I made it through.
At the end of all this, we're energy, Tim. That's what we are. We're energy sources. Get it down to the cell level, get it down to the atomic level. The neurons, the protons, the nucleus, the things that are flying around that make up, at the end of the day, a human. I mean, that's what, it will blow your mind. We're energy. So, end of the day, it's like, I am a child of God, and I am a source of God, and I am energy of God. It's all of that stuff. And we're allowed to rest in Him. And rest, peace, whatever you want to call it, is opposite of fear. So when you say, I'm taking the fear away, removing that, and I'm going to exist over here. We've done all the things we're supposed to and can do, and my gosh, what a way to live a life. So fear not is what we say.
It's so powerful.
We say to the things that are in front of us that sometimes worry, scare, and even, we're all human. We're supposed to be that way. They're just human things, and we're spiritual beings living out a human life.
And understanding that there will be suffering. That's promise. It's promised in the Bible. There will be suffering, but the good things.
Be not afraid.
Can come out of it.
Be not afraid. All right. I think we're about close. What do you think? These organic podcasts are a lot of fun. And Tim, thanks so much for the story. This has been Not Strong, Empowering the Human Spirit. My name is Kurtis Loftus.
I'm Hamby.
Hey, we'll see you again real soon.